Hi everyone. Before I start, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever imagined what it would feel like if your feet were broken and bent until they curled under like petals? It sounds unbelievable, but that's exactly what foot binding did to generations of women in China. And that's the topic of my final project. My name is Jingxi Li, and today I'm excited to walk you through my work. This project is not just about fashion, it's about the body, how it's shaped, controlled, and remembered, especially the female body. To give you some context, I grew up in a pretty traditional patriarchal family. My dad had lots of rules about what I could wear: no ripped jeans, no short skirts, but my younger brother, he could wear anything. That experience made me start thinking, why are girls' bodies always being watched? Why are we taught to shrink, to cover, to follow rules? So I decided to use this project to explore how fashion can be a tool for beauty but also a tool for discipline. I started with a mood board. I collected old photographs of wealthy women with bound feet and compared them to women with natural feet. The difference was shocking. One of the key inspirations for my research was a book called Cinderella's Sisters. It helped me understand that foot binding wasn't just about looking pretty. It was about class, control, and silence. Upper class women were expected to bind their feet to show status. Lower class women copied them, hoping to climb the social ladder. I also made a brainstorming page where I linked the idea of foot binding to plum blossoms. Why plum blossoms? Because they bloom in winter, they survive in cold, harsh conditions, quiet but strong, just like the women who lived through the pain of foot binding. I also studied Confucian traditions, especially the concept of San Kong Sida, which means three obediences, and for virtues, women had to obey their father, their husband, and later, their son. They were expected to stay quiet, stay inside, and stay small. Foot binding became one way to physically enforce those expectations, even though the practice was banned in the 20th century. It didn't just disappear overnight, it faded slowly as China tried to modernize, and even today I wonder, if foot binding is gone, are our bodies truly free now? Now I'll talk about the making process. I started by doing a small experiment. I had my hands and feet tied tightly with metal wire. At first I stayed calm, but after a few minutes, my body started to resist. Even when the wire came off, the marks were still there. That sensation, the memory of being trapped, stayed in my body, and it became part of my design concept. Then I began fabric experiments to express the tension, pain, and memory that foot binding left behind. I started by dyeing fabrics with red ink to mimic bloodstains. I wanted the color to feel raw and a little violent, because foot binding wasn't delicate. It was brutal. I also tried using PVC because I liked its harsh, industrial texture, but it was too stiff and didn't move with the body, so I kept searching. That's when I discovered organza sheer, lightweight fabric that reacts well to heat. When I used a heat gun, the organza curled, wrinkled, and warped, almost like scar tissue or burned skin. It looked fragile, but the marks it held were permanent to me. This symbolized the women who were physically and emotionally changed by the system they lived in. I started layering different colors of organza: deep red, black, and translucent white. When stacked, they created shadows that looked like bruises or wounds. That's when I realized fabric can hold memory too, just like the body. This became the emotional center of my material study. Beauty born from pain, softness reshaped by heat, a body transformed not by choice, but by pressure. I also chose red and black as my core color palette. Red represents blood, pain, and survival. Black gives weight, depth, and silence. Together, they tell a story of strength through suffering. Then I explored stretch fabrics to capture the sensation of being tightly wrapped. Elastic has natural tension when stretched and fixed. It pulls inward. It reminded me of how foot binding cloth wrapped around the skin and bones. I cut the elastic into strips and wrapped them around prosthetic legs. At first the surface was smooth, but as I pulled tighter, the fabric began to bunch up, crease, and dig into the surface like scars pressed into skin. When multiple strips overlapped, they created an invisible force, a quiet pressure that made the body shrink. And then I brought everything together on the mannequin. I started draping organza petals, each one twisted and layered. I also added the stretched elastic, still pulling at the form. I didn't smooth anything out. I kept the tension, the wrinkles, the irregular shapes, because they tell the story. These textures aren't for decoration, they're reminders of what the body remembers. I used the red petals to build 5 large blossoms. Originally, I wanted them arranged neatly like a traditional flower, but later, I decided to distort the shape because pain isn't neat, and foot binding didn't happen evenly. The red needed to start from the feet and rise like blood, like memory. In the final garment, you'll see these blossoms sewn onto black mesh. The fabric feels light, but the red color gives it weight, like something beautiful that also hurts. This isn't a comfortable piece, it's not supposed to be, but I think that discomfort is important, because it helps us remember. This project is a tribute to the women who were silenced, reshaped, and endured, and it's also a question for all of us today. We don't bind our feet anymore, but we still wear high heels that hurt. We still diet. We filter. We chase beauty rules we didn't ask for. So I'll end with this. Are our bodies really free today?